The S-Line is Atom Audio's flagship, the best the company has to offer, and today I'm going to review the Atom Audio S3H. Let's go! Full disclosure, Atom Audio sent these to me to demo, and so they are an actual demo pair, which is why I didn't do an unboxing. The boxes have been around. They're not the most pristine looking boxes I've ever seen, and so I didn't do an unboxing because they're not much to look at. But the unboxing was typical, like normal things. They're wrapped in plastic and foam and with cables and a manual, and that's pretty much it. Now this is the second monitor review in a series that I'm doing, trying to find what's going to be the next monitor to go permanently in my room. And once I've worked my way through all the monitors I'm going to review, there will be a final video comparing them all to each other, discussing their differences and ultimately which one I'm going to go with. So make sure you subscribe and hit the bell next to the subscribe tab so you get notified when I upload new videos. A couple more things before we get to the review. Firstly, if you decide at any point in time to pick up a pair of these monitors or any other monitors that you see in this series or any other gear that you might ever need for your studio or musical journey, there are links down below to Sweetwater, to these monitors, to anything that you would like. If you use those links to purchase anything, I get a little bit of a commission and it really helps the channel out. Sweetwater's been a big part of helping me out on this channel and I appreciate it very much. And lastly, before we get to the review, I've been working on a documentary for 2 years and it is getting real close. It's going to be released in October, and it is an awesome documentary over one of the music industry's biggest names and features some pretty crazy stories, some drama between two big companies. It's awesome. So when you see this documentary drop, it'll be obvious what it is. You're going to want to watch it because it's awesome. Let's see what these monitors sound like. They sound pretty good. Okay, so the first thing that I noticed when listening to these is that how specific the stereo spectrum is, how pinpointable things are in the stereo field left to right. It's very specific and very obvious where in the stereo field things sit in the mix on these monitors. That's really cool. The second thing that I noticed is that the sweet spot is pretty small. Like, moving your head one side to the other or in or out of the sweet spot. The sweet spot's pretty small. This probably also means that their placement within the room is pretty important, and so I'm gonna make sure that I play around with placement and get them in the exact best spot as possible. The transient response, specifically the transient response in the mid-range and upper mid-range and top end, feels very, very good, very fast. That's a great feeling, like the level of the accuracy and the immediacy of the transients feels very good. The mid-range, this is all at first listen, so we're gonna be tweaking these and I'm gonna be tweak placement and like the settings on them. Stick around, there's a lot more to experiment with these, but the mid-range feels very, I don't know how else to describe it other than close. The mid-range feels very close to my face. It's not like there's too much of it. It's not like there's necessarily a big bump in the mid-range, but it just feels very close. At first listen, in their flat setting, they do feel a little bit light in the sub bass in like 30 to 40 hertz. So let's go over the specs and then we'll actually discuss my thoughts on them and what they sound like. Let's see, I'm gonna get my laptop out here and just read these to you. So they have dual 7-inch woofers. There's a 4-inch mid-range dome driver, 2.2-inch SART tweeter. The frequency response of these is 30 hertz to 50 kilohertz. So again, extremely wide frequency response. They are a total of 1,350 watts. They are 11 inches tall by 23 inches wide by 15 inches deep, and they weigh 58.6 pounds each. They are a ported monitor with 2 ports on the bottom. So they have fully digital crossovers in them and Class D amplifiers. And the pros of this is that they have incredibly precise adjustment capabilities. And the level of control that you have over the tiniest of minute details is pretty incredible. Now the downside to having an all digitally controlled monitor is that there's an extra round of conversion. So you're sending an analog signal into the monitor and there's a converter in the monitor that is converting the signal signal back to digital to process it, and then back to analog to push it out the amplifiers and out the speaker. To me, the biggest thing is how do they sound? They're in their flat settings, so I think it is time to tweak these now and see if we can get them dialed in for the room a little bit better. Okay, so on the back here, you have got a little screen with a push button encoder. Okay, there we go. It's almost impossible. Okay, there. It's so incredibly, no, I didn't, no. Why did it do that? Why did it go back to 0? Come on. Luckily, these come with some software, so we're just, let's see if I can just get back to 0 on this. So let's try the software. Okay, so this is Adam Audio's software here. I've downloaded it on the Trash Can Mac Pro, and it's, I don't know if you can see this, it's incredibly glitchy. You can't really see any numbers here. This is apparently not compatible or is extremely glitchy with that version of OS, so I guess let's try the laptop. Okay, so here is the software on my M1 MacBook Pro. Let me show you what version we are using. This is Big Sur 11.2.3. It's less glitchy on this, but it is still glitchy. Like if I try to adjust this, like it's showing like a 0 dB on top of the number. And that's pretty much for every value. I mean, I don't know what that, luckily I have been able to double tap and like type in specific values. And so that has actually worked. But then, so you would come up here and you would hit read and it would see what the speaker was set at. And then you would make the adjustments that you'd like to make. And then you click store and it would load it into the monitor. And then you'd have to pull that cable off and plug that cable into the other monitor and click store. And so that way you would load the same settings in both monitors. I'm not gonna lie, it's a pretty glitchy, clunky way of adjusting this stuff. Now this is really awesome that you have this level of precise control over the way these are set up. It's really unfortunate that the back panel is so clunky, and it's pretty unfortunate that the software is so glitchy and clunky. But the worst part about it is the fact that you can't load anything in real time. You have to make your adjustments that you think you'd like to hear, and then hit load, and then you have to wait for it to load into the monitor, which takes a little bit of time, and then you have to climb around back and switch the USB cable to the other monitor, and then click load, which takes a little bit of time, and then listen and see if you'd like to make more changes. It's just it's awesome that you have the control. I much appreciate the fact that you offer software with these. There's a better way to implement it, and I hope you guys can get that done. It would be awesome to see real-time control in these. It would be awesome to see some sort of daisy chain or being able to hook up 2 USB cables so you can hook up to both of them simultaneously. But really, like, real-time control would just, that'd be great. And like I said, luckily you will only need to do this a couple times throughout your entire life of owning these. Once you get them set, you're probably not ever going to change them unless you switch rooms. Okay, so these have now been up for a week and a half about. I've mixed many songs on them. I've mastered many songs on them. I have done tons of production work, tracking singers, recording guitars, all kinds of stuff. So what are they actually like to work on? The top end is really good. It's very, very good. It's very transparent. The top end just feels like it's just there. You're not like hearing any, it doesn't feel like you're hearing any coloration. It doesn't feel like it's really being affected. It's just there. It feels really good. The top end is great. The stereo imaging is incredibly precise. Where things are panned in the stereo field is very accurate and very specific and feels really great. In my opinion, I think these really shine on like rock and metal. And let me explain why I feel that way. The mid-range, and I mentioned this earlier, the mid-range is very close. It's very like close to my face and very flat. It's not an overly three-dimensional speaker. I can't like reach back in a mix and grab a reverb tail or grab the back of the room in a drum sound. It's just, it's very flat. It's very close. It's very, I don't want to say two-dimensional, but I guess that's how I feel about it. But I would say that it's this way in the same way that like a Yamaha NS10 is this way. So I don't think that this is necessarily a negative, it's just a characteristic of the speaker. Panning stuff is super obvious and super easy, and adjusting levels is pretty good. The fact that the mid-range is so flat and like right in front of your face means that turning things up and down, it is easy still to tell how loud and quiet things are. Even though low-level information like reverb tails and stuff like that is not quite as obvious. So the low end feels very tight and very accurate. It does feel a bit light in the sub bass to me. So how I currently have these set up is I'm boosting 1 dB with a high shelf, and then I'm boosting like 2 dB with a low shelf at 80 Hertz. Now, despite my complaints about the software and the back panel, once I've gotten them dialed into the way I like them the best, or the best that I think that they sound in my room, I haven't touched them since. And so I spent a few hours dealing with that and then haven't touched them for like a week and a half now. So confirms what I was thinking. The software is a little clunky. The back panel is very clunky, but once you get it set, it's not really that big of a deal. So probably wouldn't let the software like change my mind on whether or not I would purchase them, because it's just not that often you're ever gonna have to deal with it. At $34.99 each, or $7,000 for the pair, I think that these are right in line with a lot of the other competition. I think they sound great, and if these have the characteristics that you're looking for in a monitor, I think that they're a great option. Again, there are links down below if you decide to pick a pair of these up for yourself. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace. So make sure you subscribe and hit the bell next to the So make sure you subscribe and hit the bell next to the subscribe tab so you get notified.